Hello everyone, my name is Keely. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you've been here before. Today I'm going to talk about all the books that I read in February, and I managed to read 18 books totaling in 4,227 pages with an average rating of 3.8, which is better than my average rating in January, so hopefully it only goes up from here. Now today I am filming in a little bit of a different position on my bookshelves because I need to get this filmed and the sun is coming in right where I would normally film, so hopefully everything looks okay in this video. But let's get into talking about the books, and as always I'm going to talk about these books in the order that I read them in, and a lot of these books were in vlogs for the month, so any book that is in a vlog, that vlog will be linked down below. So the first 6 things I actually read in February were all a part of the Amazon Original Stories collection, The Improbable Meet Cute, which I did do a vlog reading and ranking all of these, but the first one I read was The Exception to the Rule by Christina Lauren, and in this one we follow a boy and a girl, and one day in high school the boy is trying to email his teacher and he accidentally mistypes the email and sends it to a female classmate instead, and they don't know who the other person is, and in fact they actually don't reveal their names, but now every year on Valentine's Day they end up emailing each other and kind of just catching up for a little bit. And so this happens over the course of several years, and they're kind of getting to know each other and grow up together, but they still have no idea who the other person is. So I've realized this trope of kind of like the secret pen pal is one of my favorites. I absolutely loved it, and reading the emails was so fun because they started out as high schoolers and then they grew up to be like these adults in their career, and it was so much fun to kind of see them interact without even knowing who the other person was. I also cried in this one. It was so great, and I would definitely read a full-length novel over this story. I gave it 5 stars. The next one in this collection is The Worst Wingman Ever by Abby Jimenez, and this is also another secret pen pal trope, but in this one we follow a woman who is actually a hospice nurse, and she is currently a nurse for her grandmother, so she is really going through a lot. One day she sees a Valentine's note on her car and she gets really excited and then realizes that it was given to her by mistake. So ensues this secret pen pal between her and the man who accidentally gave it to her. Again, love this trope so much. The emotion from the story also made me cry. Like, the first 2 stories in this collection started out so great, so emotional, so heartfelt, and so romantic, and I also gave this one 5 stars. Next was Rosie and the Dreamboat by Sally Thorne, and in this one we follow 2 sisters who on Valentine's Day are going to this amazing spa, and at one point they are going to these tubs that are kind of like these immersion tubs, and they completely close on you when the main girl gets stuck in her tub. So they have to call the fire department, and so ensues this romantic connection between her trapped in this tub and this allegedly hot firefighter on the outside who she can't actually see, but she just talks to the whole time. Now this one, it was okay. I just didn't feel the connection between these 2 people. I didn't really care for them. They were quite like jokesters, and I didn't really like their humor, so it was just okay, and I gave this one 3 stars. Next was Drop, Cover, and Hold On by Jasmine Guillory, and in this one we follow a woman who is saying that she is never going to go into this bakery again because she is convinced that the man hates her, but she walks by and she wants to see what desserts they have that day, so she goes in. While she's in there, an earthquake happens and they get trapped inside together. So this is actually a foodie romance, which is like my favorite, and forced proximity. And I don't think I really liked how the forced proximity was done in here. The characters were okay for me, but I don't think I also like the grumpy character, and he was definitely like grumpy sunshine, and I didn't like the grumpiness. I would prefer more of a sunshiny character, but this one was still cute overall and a pleasant surprise that it was a foodie romance, and I still gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next was With Any Luck by Ashley Poston, and in this one we follow a woman who says that she is cursed, and the curse is anytime she kisses someone, the next person they see, they find their true love. So she is going to her best friend's wedding. She is actually like his best man, and she's going to his wedding, and the night before he disappears. So she is worried that she did the unthinkable, kissed him, and now he is running off with whoever is not his fiance. This one, not great. I love Ashley Poston, so I was devastated that I did not love this one. The characters in this story for the majority of the time are drunk, and I don't want to read about that. I gave this one 3 stars, and I think I was being nice. I'm just going to keep it at 3 stars because I really don't want to rate it lower because it is Ashley Poston, but do not recommend this one out of the entire collection, unfortunately. And the last one from this collection was Royal Valentine by Sarah Wilson. And in this one, we actually follow a princess, and she is on a job trip thing in Rome, and she wants to switch places with her assistant because she just wants to live a normal life for a weekend. So she switches places, her assistant goes back to the country, and she stays in Rome. And of course, she has this little whirlwind romance. This one was cute, but I just wasn't completely obsessed with it, so I gave it 3 stars, but I did love all of the Rome vibes. Next, for a foodie romance reading vlog, I read Yes Chef by Waitlin Andrews. In this book, we follow a woman who is actually a chef at a restaurant in Paris. And she's American, but she is working with all of these people who are not American. And then one day, the head chef comes in and tells her, hey, we're actually bringing in another head chef, and he is also American. And when he says who it is, she realizes, oh my gosh, this is that Michelin-starred famous chef, and he is coming to work here. And when he comes in, she kind of gets weird vibes from him. He's really friendly to everyone else, but not to her. And so she just thinks they're not gonna get along. And of course, they start working, start developing maybe a relationship. The food in this book, A+. This was a great foodie romance. The way everything was described and the chapter headings all had different definitions of different food elements, which I really, really loved. I related to the main character so much in this book. She was a runner, she was a reader, she lived in Paris, she loved to travel, but she also had certain standards for being intimate in a relationship, which I really, really related with. The first half of this book I absolutely loved. The second half started to kind of drag for me, and I didn't really love it as much as the first half. I will say there were moments in this book that I did get butterflies, kicking my feet, twirling my hair. I was really obsessed with it, but then the second half, like I said, just kind of lagged for me, and it got a little too cheesy for me. But I ended up giving it 3 stars, and I think this is a really great foodie romance, and it is really cute. I just think it was a little too long in the second half, but I would still recommend it. Next, I read another short story from an Amazon original collection, and that is The Mosquito by B.A. Paris, and this is part of the Obsession collection. So this one was really fascinating. We follow this man who, his wife just left him, and he is going on this vacation with a group of friends to France. When he gets there, he is talking to this man who's a part of the group, and this man seems to really be obsessed with why this guy's wife left him. So that's all I'm going to say there because it is a short story. The title is Mosquito, and there is a mosquito. This obsession story was so cool because over the course of the short story, you get to see kind of this character spiral into madness and kind of lose his mind because of the different traits of obsession. It was really great, and I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Next, I read Heartstopper Volume 5 by Alice Oseman. If you don't know about this series, this is a graphic novel series about Nick and Charlie who are going to high school, and we are following their love story. Now, I'm not completely 100% obsessed like most people are, but I still really, really love this story. And this one in particular wasn't my favorite. It did handle a lot of important topics, but I felt like some of the characters got a little too needy. However, I still enjoyed it, and it wasn't my least favorite of the series, so I gave it 4 stars, which is still a great rating. The next book I read, I finally have a physical book to hold up, and that is The Dark Prophecy by Rick Riordan. This is book 2 in the Trials of Apollo series, and if you don't know, in the first one, we follow the god Apollo, and he has been punished for something he did in another series, and so his punishment is being sent to Earth to live as a teenager. And over the course of the series, he, of course, has a quest he needs to go on and help all the different oracles throughout the world. I love this series, and I'm really surprised. I didn't think that I would love following Apollo, but I really have, and he has some of the best character development I've ever seen, especially in a Rick Riordan book. His characters are great, but watching Apollo and following him has been so much fun, and I really, really enjoy it. I love seeing some of the characters that we love from other series, and the way this book ended. Rick Riordan really knows how to do his endings to make sure you want to pick up the next book immediately, and of course, I gave this one 5 stars. Next, I read Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. In this book, we follow a woman named Elsie, and she is a theoretical physicist, and I did not know theoretical physicists and experimental physicists battle. Like, they do not get along. There's a whole tea drama in there, and she is an adjunct professor right now, which doesn't make a lot of money, so her side gig is a fake dating app where she agrees to be people's fake girlfriends for certain events. And this boy that she is the fake girlfriend of, he has this brother, And of course, when she is applying for this job, this boy's brother is the experimental physicist that she is trying to get hired from, and he's like a part of the hiring committee, and he's like, you're not a scientist, you're my brother's girlfriend, you're a librarian. And she's like trying to figure out her way out of this, especially because they're on two separate sides of science and they tend to not get along. This book is my favorite Ali Hazelwood book. I just love this so much. I related to this main character so incredibly much that I actually cried because of how much I related to her, and it helped me realize a lot about myself and learn a lot about myself. So this was more than just a romance for me. I really enjoyed these two characters so much, and this book actually I think had the most science out of all of her STEMinist novels, and I don't like science, but I love the way she writes it because I just feel so interested in everything she's writing. I will say I enjoyed the romance before they got together. Like, I enjoyed it more. After they got together, I was just like, okay, what else is gonna happen? But I actually enjoyed it before they got together, and I think it's because that tension Ali Hazelwood creates is just phenomenal. But this one was truly amazing, magnificent. I love it, and I gave it 5 stars. Next, I read Checkmate by Ali Hazelwood. This is her young adult debut, and in this one, it's about chess, and we actually follow this girl, Mallory, who was really good at chess, but something happened with her family, and so she says that she is never going to play again until one day she gets put into this tournament because her best friend, and she actually ends up beating the current world chess champion, who is a boy around her age. Scandalous, I know. So my favorite thing about this book was actually the chess. I don't know anything about chess. I don't know how to play. My dad is the chess player, and I don't know anything about it. I don't understand it, but I loved getting to learn the chess. I'm one of those people that if I'm reading a book and I see just a small tidbit of information, I become obsessed with that thing. And learning about chess in here, I was Googling things I never thought I would look up. I literally looked up where the next World Chess Championships were to see if I could go. They're in Canada, by the way. But this book, that is basically the only thing I really liked about this book. I have a lot of gripes about here. One of the gripes I have is the characters, specifically Mallory. I did not like her and her family. I hated her family. Every time there were scenes with her family in this book, I just wanted to skip over them. They made me so angry. They made me roll my eyes. Her sisters were unbearable. I did not like them. I also didn't like the relationship because I think Nolan was way too good for Mallory. I do not think that she deserved him, and a lot of the arguments that she made were completely ridiculous and immature, and I did not like her, and she just didn't think about things. Like, she was so selfish and self-absorbed, and I did not like her. Another big gripe about this book, which I know some people are going to appreciate, is that this book had a lot of sex in it. And I don't think young adult books should have sex in it. And that's just my personal opinion. I get it if you have different opinions on that because we're different people. That's how opinions work. But for me, I do not think young adult books should have sex in it. And so that was a downfall for me. I still gave this one 3 stars, even though it sounds like I have a ton of gripes, because I do. But I still give it 3 stars because Nolan and chess really saved the book for me. The next 3 books I have to talk about, I read for my 5-star prediction at romance vlog. You should definitely go check that out because it did not go great, but also it went really great. But the first book I read for that was Raiders of the Lost Heart by Joe Sakura, and I actually buddy read this with my best friend Katie from Katie's Book Nook, and it was really fun because we completely hate read this. Like, hated it. This book follows 2 rival archaeologists who have to work together. One day, this woman, she's working as a professor, this man walks in and says, "You need to come with me, you are leaving on an archaeological dig, here's your plane ticket, I'm not telling you anything else." She gets there and she realizes it is her rival archaeologist who actually stole this dig from her, and it is her dream dig because it is trying to find her Aztec ancestor. I can never remember that word, ancestor. And they're doing this dig together and they're trying to work together even though they hate each other. But do they really hate each other? Because as soon as they see each other, all they can talk about is what the other person might look like naked. It was all about lust. There was no chemistry in here. There was no relationship because it was all about lust. Like, how do you hate each other, but all you're thinking about is the other person? The main thing I hate about this book too is the main character. She hated being known for just her body. She wanted to be known for her brilliant brain, which I totally get, but the only way the author wrote this woman was about her body. Like, that was all she was described as. The entire time she was on page, every single time she entered a room, her body was described. So as a reader, that's all we can see, that's all we know about her, and this book honestly felt like it was written by a 40-year-old man who lives in his parents' basement. That's the best way I can describe this. I did not enjoy it, and I will be unhauling it, and I gave it 1 star. This is probably going to make my worst books of the year list. Next, I read Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This was actually my 3rd Ali Hazelwood book of the month, and this is her newest release. In this book, we follow a vampire named Misery, and she is having to get married to the werewolf Alpha. Now, these 2 species do not get along, but this marriage is set up to hopefully create this alliance so people stop killing each other. And she actually has a hidden reasoning for wanting to marry this man because something has gone wrong, and she thinks he holds the answers or that he is the problem. So, this book, it's just truly mediocre for me. I really did not love it. I didn't love how the vampires were done in here, and there are a lot of tropes in this book that I realized I do not like. I do not like the mate trope, I do not like the single father trope, and I do not like the trope where the main girl thinks that something is going on, and it's actually something completely obvious that is different from what she thinks, so she just looks like an idiot the entire time. I gave this one 3 stars because I didn't truly hate it, but I also did not care for it. I was really surprised because I thought I would love it because of the vampires, but it just didn't do it for me. The next book I read was The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and in this book we follow a woman whose aunt just passed away, and she was very, very close with her aunt, and when her aunt passed away, she actually left her niece her apartment. So when she goes to move into this apartment, she has always heard her whole life from her aunt that this apartment is magical, but she didn't really believe it until one day she walks in and there is a man in there. He's a young, like 22-year-old man, and she gets freaked out, of course, and then she realizes that this man is 7 years in the past. So the magical thing about this apartment is that there is a 7-year time slip here. So she is in the present and he is 7 years in the past. And so they are trying to navigate living in this apartment together while also growing this relationship. And she is trying to understand her grief. This book was everything to me. I annotated it, I highlighted, I underlined, and I just truly appreciate Ashley Poston so much. So The Dead Romantics was my favorite book of last year, and that healed a lot in me. It helped me understand so much about my grief and just come to terms with who I am as a person and how grief is a part of me. And in this book in particular, it is like the next step of that healing process and understanding that yes, you can grieve, but you can also love people and be loved in return. I get so much out of her books that it's truly amazing what books can do for you and how they can heal you. But let me talk more about this book in particular. These 2 characters were amazing. Their banter was so much fun. The chemistry was jumping off the page. The connection, the relationship, I absolutely loved it. But also that little mystery element of, are they going to meet up in the current timeline? Like, what's going to happen? Are they going to be the same? Are they still going to love each other? Like, what's going on? I just truly loved it. The grief in here, the exploration, amazing. I cried for like a solid 2 hours reading this. Like, I was just straight on sobbing the entire time reading this, and it's just so cathartic and healing and beautiful and heartbreaking, and I loved it so, so much. I've said this before and I will say it again, Ashley Poston truly knows my soul. And if you can't tell, I give this book 5 stars, and I would not be surprised if once again she makes my favorite books of the year list and actually tops that list once again. Next, I read The Burning Maze by Rick Riordan. This is book 3 in the Trials of Apollo, and this book made me cry. I don't know if I have truly cried so much like in a Rick Riordan book, but I was shocked that he went there. I still cannot believe it, and I am still waiting to read the last 2 books in the series because there's no way that happened. I just don't believe it. I just do not believe it. But I gave this one 5 stars, and I need to know what happens at the end of the series. Next, I read Kiss Cut by Karen Slaughter. This is book 2 in the Grant County series. In this series, we follow a woman named Sarah, and she lives in this small town in Grant County, and she is the town pediatrician, but also the town coroner. Now, her ex-husband, Jeffrey, is, I believe, the chief of police, and so obviously, even though they're exes, they're having to work together all the time because crime, coroner, doctor, it goes hand in hand. Now, this county experiences some brutal crimes. I'm not going to tell you specifically what this crime is in this book because I believe it can be triggering. So if you're reading Karen Slaughter book, you should definitely look up triggers because her books are dark. They do not shy away from the darkness, and that is why I love her books so much. It is so like strange to read a book like that that's like been published, and I love it because real life things like this are actually happening, and it is so dark. I cannot believe how dark she went in this book. It was crazy. The town is really fascinating, but I will say I enjoyed the first book a whole lot more, and that's simply because of one character. So there's a character in this book, in this series, called Lena, and she is a police officer, and I don't like her. And I get she has been through trauma, let me tell you, and that changes you. But I still don't like her. Okay, I do not like her. Every time we followed her point of view, I just wanted to throw the book across the room because I just don't like her. I'm interested to see if she does have character development in the rest of the series. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I honestly thought it was going to be lower than that, but the second half really had me going, and all of the reveals were crazy, and I cannot wait to see how this crime is solved because it was not solved in this book, and I need to know. So yes, overall 3 stars for Kiss Cut. And the last book I read in February was People Like Them by Minka Kitt, and this is also a part of the Obsession Amazon short story collection. And in this one, we follow a group of people who all live in the same neighborhood. So one night they are doing this thing where they like eat little snacks and drink wine at each person's house, and they go to the next person's house like over and over and over again. So by the end of the night, they've eaten a lot, they've drank a lot, and they've just spent a lot of time together until somebody ends up dead. And that's all I'm gonna say. I really enjoyed this one. I didn't think that I would when I first started it. I was just like, okay, there's these neighborhood people having like parties at each other's houses. What's gonna happen? And then the ending. The ending was so good that I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, and this Obsession collection so far has been pretty good. I can't wait to continue it. So those are all the books that I read in the month of February. Please let me know what your favorite book for the month was. I would love to know. But if you have made it this far in the video, go ahead and leave the pink flower emoji. But that is it. Thank you so much for watching. As always, all my social media links will be down below. And I'll see you next time. Bye!